Hello, this is a video on Office 365. It's just a brief overview. We're going to go through signing into Office 365. We're going to talk about what's behind that sign in, what's available to you and your company for applications. And we're also going to talk about what an administrator sees, as that view is different than what a user sees. So what is Office 365? Essentially, it is services. It's services you subscribe to. SharePoint Online, OneDrive, Exchange email services, authentication services, many other cloud-based services. You may even subscribe to desktop applications. Mostly, our customers convert or migrate to Office 365 for email services. So they may have a server at their site that's giving them email services, but during the course of a project, we're going to migrate all that email up to Office 365, and then Outlook is going to connect to those Exchange email services in the cloud. Depending on the licenses purchased, you may or may not have access to install the desktop applications. So you're going to get different services based on the subscription and the license that you or your company has purchased. We're going to go into more of that later, and in fact there's a whole other presentation on that which you can get access to. Just ask us. So in this presentation, we're going to sign into Office 365. We're going to talk about Office 365's architecture and how your login is related to your company's tenancy. We'll go through that in a second. And the big picture, what Office 365 looks like on the world stage. Terms like tenancy, admin portal, and user portal, we're going to go through all that. At the end of this, you should have an understanding about Office 365 and the big picture, what it means when you sign into Office 365, and what it means for an administrator to sign in and configure Office 365. So let's go to a sign-in. Let's actually sign in. I'll sign as myself. So I can go to portal.office.com. That's typically the way I do it. That's the way many people do it. Microsoft just redirects the URL anyway to some long thing that you'd never be able to remember. But you can also get there from office.com. Yeah, I can forget that account. I'm going to log into that later. But if I go sign in here, it's going to bring me back to the very same login that I got when I went to portal.office.com. So anyway, I'm going to sign as me. Okay, I'm going to hit next. It's going to ask me if I want to sign into a work account or a school account or a personal account. Of course, I'm going to sign into a work account because that's what my company set up for me. So I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to enter my password. And here I go. So this is what I see when I log into Office 365 online. Obviously, you don't see this if you're just connecting with your Outlook. You're just connecting maybe to the Outlook services. But this is where I would go to access my web-based Outlook. I would go here. I would also go here to access my OneDrive, our company SharePoint, our company Teams, etc. And I have some other applications available to me. And I also have the desktop applications available to me because our subscriptions have that. Our subscriptions include the desktop versions of the applications. So that's me. I'm signed in. I can go to these applications. I can go to the web-based versions of these. And then if I want to sign out, I just sign out. And I'm out. So let's talk about Office 365 architecture. Let's bring it back and talk about the big picture, and then we'll bring it down to just our individual logins. So Office 365 is a global system in the cloud. They have millions of customers using the system in many countries around the globe. They have thousands of servers all over the world. You don't really know where your data is unless, and you can do this in Canada, you can specify that you only want your data on Canadian servers. So we have that ability, and we have done that for a couple customers. They just brought that around in the last couple years, that you're able to specify you want your data on Canadian servers. So they may have data centers in, I don't know, Toronto, Vancouver probably, and maybe other places. But They do have thousands of servers all over the world, different data centers. It is a global system. They also have thousands of programmers, administrators, business analysts constantly working and updating the applications, user experience people, just thousands of employees at Microsoft. The applications are constantly being updated. You can get on lists that tell you what new features are coming out on what application roadmaps they call them. So if they have a set or series of updates that they want to make to an application, they'll put it on a roadmap, and they can put you on a list where you can receive emails that will tell you what's happening next. So that's this big square here is going to represent the Office 365 system globally. This little blue square is going to represent your tenancy. So if you work at abccompany.com and your company has subscribed to Office 365, you will get what's called a tenancy, represented here by this blue square. Now, obviously, this isn't to scale. Office 365 is a global system in the cloud. When we subscribe to it, we are a very, very small portion of that. But in your tenancy, you're going to have your email services configured. You're going to set up your users. Your administrator will, I should say. Your administrator is going to have your storage configured for SharePoint and OneDrive, and other services depending on what you're subscribed to. Now, if your company wants to set up, say, a different domain or a different tenancy called def.com, maybe it's a second company owned by your company, you can set up a separate tenancy for it. You can have a separate subscription, and then in that, you would put email and files and other stuff. So you can have as many tenancies as you want. You just keep paying and keep purchasing those subscriptions from Office 365. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about your tenancy now. So again, the tenancy for ABC Company, represented by this blue square within the global Office 365 system. Here's you as a user, and just like I did a few moments ago, I logged into Office 365. I logged into my little user area here, represented by this black square, within my company's tenancy, which is within the global Office 365 system. So in my little area, I could have gone into my email to see my email in the Outlook web app. I could have gone into OneDrive to see my files. My Outlook is connected to the Exchange services, which my administrator will administer. And I'm going to go into that in just a minute. But when I log into my portal, my personal one here, and I see my OneDrive icon, I see my Outlook icon, I click on my Outlook icon, but that's accessing the Exchange services within my company's tenancy. And I'll touch on that in a second. I also may go to my SharePoint, and my SharePoint will also go to my company's SharePoint. So if there's another user logging into his or her user, he or she will also access Outlook, which connects to our company's Exchange email services, and he or she will go through SharePoint to access our company's SharePoint resources. Now, it's also possible that we have access to different applications. This person may have access to OneNote, and then those files would reside within that person's Office 365 sign-in and their personal portal. I may have access to Planner, and I have Planner files in here. As well, I can store my Word and Excel documents in my personal area, or I can put them up on SharePoint and share them with other users. Teams is also something that would be configured at the tenancy level. So the administrator would configure Teams, and both the users would access that from their desktops. So I've been talking about the administrator. I'm going to go into that a little more right now. The ABC Company administrator, there may be multiple administrators, have a little bit different view. So I'm going to go into that right now. I'm going to actually go back to this login. I'm going to forget this account. And I'm going to sign in as our administrator. Okay, so that's fine. Okay, so looks similar to a user logging in. So if I compare that back here, and I've logged in as administrator, yes, I can see this application side of these, that's fine, but I also have access to this icon here, which only one person in your organization should have access to. And of course, if 365 Technologies is administering this for your organization, we will have access to it. So I go into admin, it takes me to an admin portal, and this is completely different from anything else. In here, I have the access to look at all the users. I can configure all the users, I can configure all the licensing, I can purchase more licenses, and more importantly, I have access to these admin centers. So I can go into, and this is represented here by this side of it. So as a user, you have access to the application side of these, just looking at it from this way, but this administrator can come into the tenancy and administer these applications on the back end, if you will. So I have access to Exchange, SharePoint, Teams. I have all the admin centers here. I can go through them. Some of these applications you probably won't be subscribed to, but just as an example, the administrator can administer SharePoint, Dynamics, all these different applications depending on what you're subscribed to. Okay, so that's kind of the difference between a user login and an administrator login within your company's Office 365 tenancy. So takeaways from today, or from this presentation: Office 365 is a set of services you subscribe to. Once you subscribe to an Office 365 set of services, you have a tenancy on the Office 365 Global Cloud. Your company's area in the Office 365 Cloud is called a tenancy. I just said that. After you sign into Office 365, you will get your customized list of applications available to you. I guess I have a spelling error there. That should be your customized list of applications available to you. And that's all set by your administrator when it's set up. In some organizations, maybe some people get Exchange email services, some people won't, some people get SharePoint, some people won't. It just depends on what your organization is subscribed to and what's being offered to you as a user. Yeah, and that's just what I said. Administrator can configure the applications available to you and others. So that is it, really. That was a very quick video. Thank you, good luck, and of course, call us with any questions. We want to make sure that you're getting everything that you can out of Office 365. We want to make sure you understand it and you're able to use it. And thank you very much for your time.